Good afternoon, everybody. How's it going? We've got a little bit of Seahawks news today, and it's good news. Now, it's also kind of superfluous news. It's not pertaining to something in the present or the future, it pertains to the past. But it's still pretty cool. It's still good news. And like I said this morning, obviously, I'm a fan of this team. I'm not a fan of any one player on this team. But when a player helps this team achieve success, and in this case, these two players in particular have helped this team get to the playoffs. I think it's cool when they get recognized for it and they get honored for it. So, two Seahawks got honored today with weekly awards, and it's far from our first trip to the weekly awards this year. We've had a lot of players participate in that this year. So, I wanted to go ahead and quickly make a video about it, talk about it for a second here, and just kind of take a look back at what was accomplished this year in terms of individual accolades. So let's open up with Ken Walker. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Air Player and Ground Player of the Week award because it's sponsored by FedEx. Putting FedEx in front of it makes it sound like it's not something you should take that seriously. Like if it was the Associated Press Ground Player of the Week or the NFLPA Ground Player of the Week, I feel like it would have more gravitas. But whatever. FedEx Ground Player of the Week, Ken Walker III, won it for Week 18. And it makes sense why. In Week 18, Ken Walker, not only was he very productive and effective in that game, but he kind of got better as the game went on. In overtime, he had several big carries that got us into field goal range at the end. So you look at that, you add that all up, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Not only did he get big yards, but he got the yards that were big. So Ken Walker III, if you take a look at it, is a two-time FedEx Ground Player of the Week, which should be a pretty firm push towards Offensive Rookie of the Year. He won it in Week 18, like you see down here. He also won it in Week 7 against the Chargers, which was, in terms of yards, his best game of the year, almost 170. Now, he's not the only guy to win Ground Player of the Week twice this year. Jamal Williams won it twice, and Josh Jacobs won it twice. So he's not the only guy to win it twice. However, little fact here, one fun little fact here, Seahawks are the only team to win Ground Player of the Week 3 times this year because Rashad Penny won it in Week 4 against the Lions. So, I don't know. I feel pretty good about that. So yeah, Ken Walker continues his push for Rookie of the Year, and I imagine that something like this is going to continue to push that. At this point, I think he is a pretty large favorite because his main competition plays on a team that lost like their last 6 games and missed the playoffs and had one of the worst offenses in the league. So the other guy, and this one's interesting, Quandre Diggs, because Quandre Diggs has had a very polarizing year, right? At the end of the year, he actually managed to basically maintain the level of play when it came to forcing turnovers. A big thing this year was, Quandre Diggs isn't getting his interceptions like he usually does. He usually gets 5. Well, he got 2 in the last 2 games, so he's at 4. And look, the way interceptions work, like the difference between 4 and 5 is not necessarily meaningful. So at the end of the day, he still ended up being the ball hawk that we know him to be. So Diggs has had a lot of negative things said about him this year, and it was reasonable to do so. At the end of the day, he wasn't a very good tackler. I mean, even in that game against the Rams, he missed a tackle on Baker Mayfield. So there was definitely some disappointment in the way that he played. He was not as good as he was the last couple years, but he still made the Pro Bowl, and a lot of people look at that and go, oh, that's pure reputation. But I think it's more of an indictment of free safeties in the NFC this year. At the end of the day, Diggs, who was a bad tackler this year, but was good in coverage, had 4 interceptions, and generally locked down on the middle of the field like he's supposed to do as a free safety. That makes him one of the better safeties in the league just by doing that. I think it's more of an indictment of the rest of the NFC, and it's also a reminder that maybe Quandre Diggs wasn't great this year, but he was good. He's the free safety. It's his job to take away the long ball, take away the deep shots, and protect the middle of the field. And what he did on that last defensive play of the regular season for the Seahawks this year, getting that interception of Baker, that was exactly the kind of stuff we need him to do. That's more important for a guy like Diggs than missing the occasional tackle. I'm sorry, it just is. And hopefully next year, when he bounces back from the leg injury that probably was in the back of his head this whole year, he becomes a better player and we don't notice the shortcomings as much. But Quandre Diggs was good this year. He was. There are some people out there who think he was just terrible because he couldn't tackle. No. It made him not great. It did not make him bad. And I think it's cool that in the final week of the regular season, with everything on the line, he actually wins NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Now, this is his first ever Defensive Player of the Week award, and it's not the Seahawks' first time sporting a Defensive Player of the Week. In fact, you can go to the list here on a PFR. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, or try to, and hope it doesn't get the format destroyed. There we go. So he's not been added to the list yet because they've only gone up to week 17 on this site. But as you can see, Uchenna Nwosu won the award in week 1, and Tariq Woolen won the award in week 6. So this is our third Defensive Player of the Week award in the NFC. Pretty good. The only team in the NFC to have more than 3 players show up in the Defensive Player of the Week award for the NFC would be the Eagles, which makes sense because the Eagles won the NFC. They had Darius Slay, Hassan Reddick, and Brandon Graham won it twice. Pretty good, right? Like, I think that what you see here, like, you see Geno Smith win Offensive Player of the Week 1 week for the NFC, that Lions game. You see guys like Tariq Woolen and Nwosu win these awards. You see Ken Walker be Ground Player of the Week in 2 different occasions. It's kind of a reminder that the Seahawks are not a great team yet, but they have some great players. And in terms of their great players putting up these great performances, they're kind of right up there with any team in the NFL. Like, even the elite teams are not showing up in these Player of the Week or Player of the Month awards as much as the Seahawks are. So what I take away from that is it's not a great team yet, but there's some great players here, and hopefully they can maintain that greatness moving into 2023 when we can start to bolster some areas of this team, like center, like right guard, like the receiver depth. And those guys who often play at a superstar level and win things like Player of the Week or Ground Player of the Week or even Air Player of the Week or whatever can be part of a great product instead of just propping up a mediocre one to the point where it's, a little above average. So that's a great way to finish off the regular season, man. A lot of participants in this area of the NFL. Pretty cool. All right, let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys later. There should be an injury report coming out soon. I will definitely make a video about that. And I hope to see you guys later tonight on Twitch as well. More Zelda.